On this edition for Saturday, June 23rd, ongoing confusion as migrant families and children remain separated. In our signature segment, trying to prevent the school-to-prison pipeline. And what's at stake in tomorrow's election in Turkey? Next on PBS NewsHour Weekend.
From the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center in New York, Hari Sreenivasan.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Today across the country, lawyers and advocates continue to try to find information, track down children and parents to reunite them after they were separated at the border with Mexico. Federal officials claim about 500 children are now back with family members, but it is not known if they are together in U.S. custody or if they have been deported. More than 2,300 children were separated from adults they were traveling with in the weeks before President Trump decided to reverse his decision as part of his zero-tolerance immigration policy. In Texas, Democratic members of Congress visited a detention facility in McAllen.
This is not the way we treat people who are seeking asylum in this country. And that's my biggest concern.
And in San Diego, California, and other cities, there were protests and rallies against President Trump's zero-tolerance policy.
Families united, not divided.
While in Las Vegas today, the president spoke to the Nevada Republican Party. He promised to continue his immigration policies.
Our people are actually doing a very good job handling a very difficult situation, but this is a problem that should have been solved years ago. Our issue is strong borders, no crime. Their issue is open borders. Let MS-13 all over our country. That's what's going to happen if you listen to them.
For more on the reunification of children and families and what's happening at the border, Kevin Seif, Latin America correspondent for The Washington Post, joins us now via Skype from Brownsville, Texas. First of all, you've been out there today. What have you seen?
Yeah, I mean, today is another day in which attorneys across South Texas are trying desperately to find the children of their clients. Hundreds of parents who remain detained in this region who don't know where their children are, can't even begin to locate them. So this is sort of the early stages of reunification, and so far they're incredibly frustrating for both parents and for attorneys who aren't getting any help from the government and trying to figure out where and how families are going to be reunified.
There seem to be two competing narratives here. On the one hand, you have the government saying that they are going to be and are reuniting families. And on the other hand, the lawyers that you've spoken with who represent dozens, if not hundreds of clients who are still having trouble finding the children.
Right. I mean, I think part of the issue is there's just a total lack of transparency. When parents were detained after they crossed the border, after they were separated from their children, they were theoretically supposed to be given a piece of paper with a toll-free number and an email address. And this was the only way they were ostensibly able to find information about their children. First of all, these flyers, for the most part, were not actually distributed. The lawyers were able to get a hold of them, were able to get this phone number, these email addresses, and so have desperately been calling this number, been emailing these addresses. And I was actually with a lawyer yesterday when she called this number to try to get information about a particular case. You're on hold often for over an hour. And then when you finally get someone on the other line, there's absolutely no information. So the sort of only avenues that exist are total dead ends. And so what's happened is attorneys have tried to find their own routes through other legal organizations who are representing children to find information. But all of these legal organizations are wildly overworked and overwhelmed.
How much more difficult now is it for some of these lawyers to find children, considering that they have been moved to several different parts of the country, that they're not all on the Texas border within a few miles of one another?
That's exactly right. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest issues, that, they may have known where a child was during the first few days, but now that child could be in any number of states, could be thousands of miles away from the parent. And so, I mean, what happens is that the child and the parent end up on parallel tracks in our immigration system. And so what's happening increasingly is that parents are being deported and children remain lost in a system somewhere. I mean, as hard as this is to do when you've got a parent and a child both in the United States, it's going to be a lot harder when the parent is back in Central America.
Kevin, is there any indication from the folks you've talked to and what you've seen, that this is acting as a deterrent, that there are fewer people trying to get in or seek asylum?
I think families that are fleeing things that pose imminent threats to their lives, I don't think they'll be deterred. I think they will continue onwards. I mean, I think what I've seen is people constantly sort of reassessing the right moment to cross the border, the right way to cross the border. I think that's not going to stop. I think we might see a few weeks of a sort of downturn, but ultimately, this flow will continue.
All right, Kevin Seif of the Washington Post joining us via Skype from Brownsville, Texas tonight. Thanks so much.
Sure, no problem.
Protests continued last night and today in Pittsburgh over the fatal police shooting of 17-year-old Antoine Rose Jr. Rose was shot in the back as he ran away after police stopped a car he was riding in Tuesday night in the suburb of East Pittsburgh. He was unarmed. Police say the car matched the description of a car wanted in a shooting in a nearby town. A cell phone video shot from a nearby house shows Rose and another passenger running from the car as the driver was being taken into custody. Authorities say 2 handguns were retrieved from the car and an empty gun clip was found in Rose's pocket. Lawyers for Rose say there is no evidence he was part of the earlier shooting. South Carolina State Representative Katie Arrington, who recently defeated incumbent Mark Sanford in the Republican House primary, was seriously injured in a 2-car collision last night. The driver of the other vehicle, which was traveling the wrong way, was killed. A spokesperson said Arrington will require weeks of recovery after undergoing surgery for a fracture in her back, several broken ribs, and the removal of portions of her small intestine and colon. In Ethiopia's capital Addis Ababa today, a grenade attack killed 1 and injured more than 150 people. The attack occurred during a rally for new Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who took office in April after the unexpected resignation of his predecessor. Ahmed addressed the nation after the attack, saying that it was an attempt by forces who do not want to see Ethiopia united. Hundreds of people were killed in anti-government protests in Ethiopia between 2015 and 2017. This team of statisticians is using artificial intelligence to predict the winners in the World Cup. Find out who the favorites are at pbs.org/newshour. Across the nation, leaders in both education and law enforcement are rethinking school discipline. The harsh rules that result in kids being put into the criminal justice system at a very early age are giving way to something new. NewsHour Weekend's Megan Thompson reports from Philadelphia.
West Philadelphia High School principal Mary Dean hoped this would be a quiet Friday morning.
I expected more from you.
But school security just found 2 students with several vials of marijuana. They've detained them in handcuffs until Philadelphia police officers arrive. It's a common scene in a neighborhood with high rates of poverty and crime. And just a few years ago, under the school district's zero-tolerance policy, both students would have been arrested, no questions asked. Today, it's likely only 1 student will be arrested because he's already on probation wearing an ankle bracelet.
You done already messed your chances up. This is what I mean by you doing dumb stuff out there or in here.
But for the other student who has no record, there's another option.
You do what you're supposed to do, it'll all go away. You don't have to worry about these charges or nothing. If you don't, then of course all the marijuana charges will be brought against you.
Rather than being arrested, the student is put in the Philadelphia Police School Diversion Program, a citywide initiative that aims to keep kids out of the criminal justice system for misdemeanors. Things like having drugs in school or bringing items that are banned, like pocket knives and BB guns, even hair combs and scissors, which could be dangerous.
We have a bottle opener, which can still be used as a weapon, as a point.
Philadelphia police officer Tamisha Golfin says sometimes kids have a reasonable explanation.
I totally forgot the knife that was in the book bag. I really forgot.
In March, 10th grader Sanaj Jackson set off a metal detector when, he says, he accidentally brought a kitchen knife to school. He'd been locked out of his house the night before and borrowed the knife from his grandmother to pick the lock.
And I got in and I put the knife in my book bag, and then I forgot to take it out. Then the next morning I went to school, and then when I put my book bag through the monitor, he said, "We have a problem."
Sanaj says getting arrested would have affected the entire family. His mom works full-time, so he helps take care of his 5 brothers and sisters.
The first thing I thought about was my mom. I don't want to go to jail. I got 20 brothers and sisters. I got to be here for them. Then I got scared, my heart dropped, my stomach bubbling up. So I'm like, I might be going away.
But Sanaj didn't go away. He qualified for the new diversion program because 1, it was his first offense, and 2, it was a low-level offense that didn't involve a victim. So now Sanaj goes to a 90-day after-school program that provides mentoring and support. It includes group sessions where they discuss drugs and alcohol.
The reason why a lot of people do different types of drugs is because you have some kind of problem, like he said, stress.
And they talk about anger management and conflict resolution.
You guys are young. You guys are going to have interactions with the police in your life at some point.
And the people that work there, they very respectful. They don't talk to you in a disrespectful way. Even if you disrespect them, they still talk to you respectfully. And that's one thing I like about them.
Sometimes it's difficult for just the parents in the school, but now you have another entity that's there working towards you going in the right direction.
Principal Mary Dean has worked in the Philadelphia School District for 26 years.
In a high-needs environment like this, our students need it. They really do. And I tell everyone, I have the smartest kids in the city. They are just brilliant. But you can't see that light, that brilliance, because of all of the difficulties that they bring with them when they come into our environment.
Before, under the zero tolerance policy, was any of that looked at? Was any of that taken?
No, they would be arrested.
Many U.S. school districts adopted some form of zero tolerance during the 80s and 90s as they tried to crack down on things like drugs and school shootings.
Back before the program started, they had
Naomi Goldstein is an expert in juvenile justice and a professor of psychology at Drexel University. She says kids will often outgrow bad behavior, and automatically arresting them can actually make things worse.
For kids who end up in the system, the chances that they continue their involvement over time increase. They're now exposed to the thinking and the behaviors of other kids who are heavily involved in the system or who have really done even things that are much more serious, which could then influence them in really negative ways, and so creating a negative cycle.
Goldstein says that cycle often starts at school. She says harsh penalties for breaking school rules push kids, minorities disproportionately, into the criminal justice system.
30 years ago, I went through academy, you lock them up and let someone else deal with those back-end issues.
Kevin Bethel spent 8 years as the deputy police commissioner overseeing security in the Philadelphia public schools. He used to be in charge of locking kids up.
That would involve taking that child from school, placing them in one of our 6 facilities around the city to process the juvenile. It'd be fingerprinted, photographed, held in a cell block upwards of 6 hours, waiting for a parent to arrive.
But then, about 6 years ago, Bethel began attending programs and workshops where he met advocates from other cities who were reforming their approach to juvenile justice. He learned more about adolescent development, trauma, and why kids act out.
It's hard for me to understand how we had allowed ourselves to be a part of that process and really had not taken a step back and been more thoughtful about what did it mean to take a child into a cell block, particularly when we come from a city with so much poverty and so much trauma, so much stress, and not understanding what was happening to that child.
And Bethel took a hard look at the reasons kids were getting arrested.
When I look at what we were locking them up for, things that I did as a kid. You know, I had my little Cub Scout knife. I got into fights in schools. I did all that stuff. And I'm locking up kids, and I'm a deputy commissioner. I did those things. That was a moment for me, and I turned to my bosses and said, man, I can't do it anymore.
Bethel started the diversion program in 2014, announcing that officers would arrest only when it was absolutely necessary.
I guess I was kind of leery.
Officer Gulfin, who's worked the school beat for 10 years, is assigned to 6 schools, including West Philadelphia High. She says teachers there were skeptical too.
I think that teachers felt reassured when they saw us arresting kids. To them, suspension was not good enough. They just want to see something done. They want to see that child go out in handcuffs. And so when the program started, we weren't that clear on how things were going to go. But then as the program progressed, it got better and better. And I think it's great. I think it's really great now.
The program has had an impact. Throughout Philadelphia, student arrests have dropped by 71% from nearly 1,600 in 2013-14 to 456 this school year. At West Philadelphia High School, arrests dropped from 21 to just 2 last year. Recidivism rates have improved citywide too. Before the program began, the rate for youth arrested was 27%. Today it's 14% for students who are diverted. And school safety improved. An average of 1,000 fewer serious incidents have been reported annually since the program began.
In my nearly 20-year career looking at juvenile justice programs, it is almost unheard of to see results like this.
A main reason for the successful results, Goldstein says, the root causes of students' behavior are finally being addressed in the after-school programs they're sent to, like this one called The Bridge. The Diversion Initiative has taken advantage of already existing programs funded by the Philadelphia Department of Human Services, so there are no major new costs.
When the kids come in the door, they're not treated like criminals, they're still kids.
Tarina Smith is a case manager at The Bridge who counsels students and even visits the kids and their parents at home.
And a lot of times when kids come in the door, they come in for one thing, but it's so much deeper than that. It could be problems at home, it could be a cry for help. And once they start breaking things down to me, it's like, wow, this is a little adult here that had grown-up problems still as a kid.
Like you get in more trouble, right?
On Wednesday afternoons, there's a mentoring group just for the boys.
Art is a good way to express yourself.
And another one just for the girls. Nashay Smith is a 17-year-old high school senior. She was sent to The Bridge after getting caught with a taser at school.
My mom handed it to me. She gave it to me to protect myself. I used to go from school straight to work, and from work to home, wasn't getting off till like 11, 12.
At first, Nashay didn't show up for the program, and when she did, she wouldn't participate. She was failing her classes at school and says she had little ambition. But then she started to open up.
I didn't want to go to college. I didn't, because I just felt like I didn't want to do school no more. And then it was just like they talked to me. They was like, you can do it. And I was like, okay. And I can do it. I know I can. I got it in me.
Now she's on track to graduate and will attend Penn State University in the fall. If she sees it through, she'll be the first in her family to get a college degree.
Are there kids who you just can't reach sometimes?
Unfortunately, there are some kids that's just whatever you do, you're not going to reach them. But if we have 5 and only reach 3, that's a major accomplishment, because that's 3 more that's not going to be back out on the street.
As for Sanaj Jackson, Tarina checks in with him about his bad grades and skipping school.
You can't tell me, oh, I overslept. I woke up late, so I didn't go.
And she pushes him on his career goals. He told her he's interested in being a barber.
So you just want to be a regular barber?
I ain't gonna work there, I'm gonna own it.
Oh, okay, that's what I wanted to hear. So you're gonna own your own shop and you're gonna have people work for you?
Yes.
All right.
Get the hair laid down proper.
So Tarina set him up with a mentor at a nearby barber shop, and he started there a few days later.
Hey, while you're here, we'll show you how we do it, what we do. How to hold clippers.
It's a chance for Sanaj to gain real-world experience and a glimpse of a possible future.
I might even have some equipment for you when you leave out of here, okay?
Okay.
All right. Hook me up real nice.
Tomorrow, voters in Turkey will decide whether President Recep Tayyip Erdogan will not only be re-elected, but also gain sweeping new powers. Campaigning today, Erdogan, who has led the country as president since 2014 and before that as prime minister since 2003, said he will bring stability to Turkey. Erdogan faces 5 opponents in a tight race. Opposition parties claim Erdogan is trying to establish one-man rule. Joining us now from Washington, D.C. is Soner Çaptay, author of The New Sultan, Erdogan and the Crisis of Modern Turkey, and director of the Turkish Research Program at the Washington Institute, a nonprofit research organization. Thanks for joining us. First, there's almost 2 things that voters are being asked to do tomorrow. We're looking at parliamentary elections, and then we're looking at the kind of increased powers of the presidency. Let's talk about the second.
Sure thing. So voters are casting 2 ballots tomorrow, the second for the presidency. Mr. Erdogan, who's already running Turkey for the last 16 years, passed an amendment to the Constitution last year which increases his executive powers. So if he wins the ballot tomorrow, he will become head of state, head of government, head of the police, which is a national force in Turkey, head of military, and head of ruling party. He will become the most powerful Turkish politician in recent memory, if not since when Turkey was established by Mustafa Kemal Ataturk in 1923 at the end of World War I.
So what happens to all of the people that are getting elected into that parliament? Will they have any sort of a check or a balance on the presidency?
The parliament does provide a check, but executive powers are invested in the authority of Mr. Erdogan, and he also will control the legislative. If his party, Justice and Development Party, AKP, wins the elections, he will control the parliament. It will effectively turn into a rubber stamp parliament. I think the problem here is that he has delivered economic growth and built a base that loves him, a base of mostly conservatives, but he's also demonized and cracked down on demographics that are unlikely to vote for him, from liberals to leftists. And when you add these constituencies up, they make half of Turkey. So his challenge is that he might win the elections by a narrow margin or so, but he faces a very divided electorate where half of the country adores him and the other half of the country loathes him.
Are there any specific issues that are driving people to the polls? Is it about the economy or about education or about how Turkey is perceived in the world?
So Turkey used to have traditional fault lines, left versus right, or Turkish nationalists versus Kurdish nationalists. I think the campaign showed to us that all of these are really meaningless in a Turkish context now. There's only one fault line that trumps everything else, and that is being pro or against Erdogan. And that is why his opposition was able to unite. And that's why he faces really stiff competition. At the same time, the opposition has raised not one, but two or three, perhaps, really competent leaders who are challenging him, starting with Mr. Ince, who's the leader, the candidate for the main opposition party, as well as Mrs. Akşener, who leads Good Party, known as İYİ Party in Turkish. And these are both significant, competent candidates. So he might win the elections, but the good news for Turkish democracy is that the silver lining of the cloud, rather, is that Mr. Erdogan is going to face two very competent candidates coming from the right, and that's very significant because Turkey is basically a right-wing country. So the fact that Mr. Erdogan's challengers previously came from the left allowed him easily to defeat them. Now he faces Mrs. Akşener, who comes from the right. And Mr. Ince, although his party is leftist, his politics is very right-wing in the Turkish context. He's conservative and pious. So I think Mr. Erdogan may win, but he faces, number one, a united opposition, and number two, very competent candidates who are going to challenge him going forward.
All right, it'll be interesting to watch tomorrow. Soner Çağatay, thanks so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
This is PBS NewsHour Weekend, Saturday.
After being picked up off the coast of Libya, hundreds of migrants now on a rescue ship find themselves in the middle of a political debate. The Italian government has turned them away, suggesting they be sent instead to Malta. The government of Malta has also refused to accept them. ITN reporter Martha Fairley has more on this continuing crisis.
Adrift in the Mediterranean Sea, desperate to reach Europe by any means. These migrants, rescued from their overcrowded dinghy by the charity ship Lifeline, are now caught in a political row. Over 200 migrants who'd left Libya by boat were picked up by German charity mission Lifeline yesterday in what Italy claims were Libyan waters, something the NGO denies. The ship wanted to dock at the Italian island of Lampedusa, but Italy said it should go to Malta. Italy's new populist government has threatened to seize the rescue ship, claiming it's illegally flying the Dutch flag. Interior Minister Matteo Salvini told a rally, "My task is to defend the borders of this wonderful country, which cannot become a refugee camp. Therefore, those who have the right to enter Italy will enter Italy." But rescue charities say Italy is causing unnecessary suffering.
There's no necessity to keep those people at sea, and the only reason why that is done is by the Italian government, by Salvini, to make a political statement, and that's unacceptable to make politics at the expense of people in maritime distress.
The UN Refugee Agency says 220 lives have been lost in shipwrecks in recent days. The rescue charities claim that's proof Italy's tough stance against migrants is now costing lives.
And finally, what happens when an icon of youth and counterculture turns 50? He keeps skating. Join us tomorrow for a visit with skateboarding legend Tony Hawk as he helps to bring the sport he made famous to the Olympics in 2020. That's all for this edition of PBS NewsHour Weekend. I'm Sreenivasan. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.